Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. The world's largest and most populated continent, Asia, is also home to some of the world's most extraordinary tropical jungles. From the evergreen lowland ranges to the cool cloud forests of the mountain regions, there are areas of jungle habitat here dating back over 100 million years. In this episode, we venture into the heart of the jungle to learn the wisdom of Asian elephants. Hang with nocturnal fruit bats, learn the Porsche Spider's ingenious hunting strategies, bask in the rivers with water buffalo, and witness the python's deadly embrace. Revered for centuries in Asia, with important roles in religion and culture across the continent, elephants are an iconic inhabitant of the Asian jungle. However, their future in this environment is less assured. Male Asian elephants stand around 3 meters high at the shoulder and can weigh over 5 tons. Marginally smaller than their African cousins, they are the second largest terrestrial animal in the world. But on the vast continent of Asia, no other animal even comes close. For all their size, Asian elephants can be remarkably discreet. Their grey coat offers a surprisingly effective camouflage in their shady jungle habitat. And wide feet with thick pads of fatty tissues distribute their weight, allowing them to walk in near silence. Unlike their African counterparts, most female Asian elephants lack tusks, and so do some males. However, on both continents, poaching for black market ivory as well as meat and leather continues to be a threat. While sexually mature males are more solitary, elephants are social animals and tend to live in tightly knit family groups. With each adult consuming 150 kilograms of vegetation a day, few environments are capable of supporting a herd of mega herbivores. Few environments, that is, except the luscious Asian jungle. In fact, in this habitat, it seems the elephants are struggling to keep up. Having developed specialized molars for breaking down the fibrous plant matter of the jungle, Asian elephants will nonetheless go through 6 sets of teeth in their lifetime. Unfortunately, cultivated crops, such as bananas and rice, are also favored foods for elephants, bringing them into conflict with farmers. With agriculture continuing to spread into the jungles, these conflicts show no signs of easing. The tropical climate that prevails over much of the Asian jungle means there is no dry season. Downpours can occur here at any time, and every month there is a minimum of 60 millimeters rainfall. For a species that lacks sweat glands, in the warm jungle environment, rain is a vital asset. And so too are the abundant jungle waterways the rain provides. Requiring over 100 litres of water a day, more if bathing, elephants are never found far from a water source. And with the jungle's reliable network of streams, creeks and rivers, they never have to be. With such a huge surface area of skin, water is crucial for elephants to cool themselves. But their frequent visits to the jungle waterways are also valuable in reinforcing social bonds. Once ranging across most of continental Asia, today elephants are found only in fragmented populations in just 15% of their original range. Cut off from their ancient migratory routes by human settlement and infrastructure, habitat loss is the elephant's greatest threat. Nature reserves and replanting programs are helping offset the degradation of the elephant's habitat, but a more unified effort is required to protect the jungles and allow this colossus to once again thrive across the continent. Come nightfall, a different breed of jungle inhabitant takes to the skies. High above the dangers of the jungle floor, fruit bats dedicate their days to an inverted form of rest and relaxation. Hanging by their toes for hours on end, bats have developed specialized tendons that allow them to cling to their roosts without expending energy. Despite having free rein over the jungle skies, fruit bats are highly social animals. Preferring to remain in close proximity to one another, they roost and feed in dense congregations. Commonly known as flying foxes for their fox-like faces, fruit bats are among the largest bat varieties in the world. Some species boasting weights of up to 1.6 kilograms and wingspans over 1.5 meters wide, they are properly known as megabats. With a wide distribution, megabat populations can be found in parts of the Mediterranean, Africa and Australia, with the greatest range of species found in Asia. The only mammals capable of flying, the majority of bats are hunters, feeding on insects and small animals. But the jungles of Asia offer many food sources, and the fruit bat has adapted to feed exclusively on the abundance of fruit varieties that grow here. Distinguished from the majority of bat species, megabats in the jungles of Asia have lost their capacity to navigate through echolocation. In seeking out fruit, the senses of smell and sight are far more important, and the facial structure of fruit bats, with long noses, enlarged eyes and reduced ears, has evolved to reflect this. With teeth adapted to bite through hard fruit skins, megabats often won't consume the entire fruit, preferring to suck the energy-rich juices inside. Their primarily liquid diet aids in their rapid digestive system, and consuming over twice their body weight in a single night, fruit bats process their feeds quickly so that they remain light enough to fly. The voracious feeding of megabats provides important services to the jungle ecosystem. Flying from tree to tree, grains of pollen are distributed via the bat's fur, allowing the vital process of pollination to take place. Fruit seeds are also distributed through their nutritionally rich excrement, some of which will take root on the jungle floor and grow into new fruit trees. Come dawn, the bats return to their roosts, where they will spend the daylight hours recovering from their busy night. The bats return to their roosts and settle in for a day of rest in their inimitable upside-down style. With the coming of dusk, this hardy species will take to the wing once more, venturing into the darkening jungle in their tens of thousands for another night of feeding, a cycle that both the bats and the jungles depend on. The bountiful jungles of Asia are crawling with life, not all of which is obvious at first glance. By far the most abundant and diverse life forms to be found here are the invertebrates. Existing within their own small-scale jungle world, these animals can easily be overlooked by the casual observer. But each creature has a distinct role to play within the larger jungle ecosystem, and each exhibits a range of specialized adaptations in order to survive here. Occupying a unique place in this complex web of life is the Porsche Spider, which has adapted to outwit and feed upon their own kind. An adept and clever predator of the invertebrate world, the Porsche spider is first and foremost a master of self-preservation. Vulnerable to other invertebrates as well as larger jungle species such as birds and reptiles, the distinctive walking gait of the Porsche assists their already effective body camouflage. Pausing at irregular intervals and continuously waving their legs with varied speed and timing, the Porsche mimics the tricks of light from the forest canopy. In this way, they are able to pursue their prey through the often treacherous habitat without being predated upon themselves. With their favorite food source being the other spiders of the jungle, Porsches are noted for their intelligent range of hunting tactics and problem-solving abilities, traits more commonly associated with much larger creatures. Willing to take long detours in order to approach their prey unseen, the Porsche spider has learned to alter its technique to get the better of the jungle's countless other arachnids. Tiptoeing on the webs of other spiders, the Porsche will disguise the vibrations it creates by timing its approach to coincide with the gentle gusts of the breeze. Once the Porsche is within range, a straightforward ambush attack can be utilized. As jumping spiders, Porsches leap with speed and accuracy, landing atop their quarry and immediately administering their venom. The stunned victim never even knows what hit it. This brutal and effective surprise attack allows the canny Porsche spider to feed on fellow arachnids up to twice its own size. Hunting by day or night, the Porsche spider's ability to outwit their prey in the Asian jungle is unaffected. One of their most deceptive and brilliant techniques involves entering the web of other spiders and drawing them out through the trialing of different vibrations. Patiently testing alternating patterns, the Porsche will use their quarry's web to mimic the vibrations of a trapped insect. Until their prey makes the fatal mistake of coming to investigate. As long as their habitat and fellow spiders remain undisturbed, this smart and adaptable creature will continue to thrive. The jungles of Asia are fed by a network of rivers, sneaking their way through the trees. It is these waterways that shape the jungle landscape and the life that inhabits it. Never far from the water, the aptly named Asian water buffalo inhabits the swamps and wet grasslands that the jungle river ecosystem supports. Asian buffaloes spend great parts of their day basking in the water to regulate their body temperature in the hot, humid forests and to avoid pests. They have also adapted to graze with their heads submerged, pulling up the nutritionally rich aquatic plants that grow underwater. They chew above the surface before diving for another mouthful. While some of the plants they feed on are valued by farmers, and thus bring the wild buffalo into conflict with humans, other plants, such as the water hyacinth, are an invasive species in Asia, and in feeding on them, the buffalo assists in keeping the jungle waterways clear. Hybrids of wild and domesticated varieties are more commonly encountered in the jungle and display a range of physical characteristics. Weighing well over a ton and standing nearly 2 meters tall, Asian buffalo are amongst the largest of the Bovidae family. Their distinctive horns, however, are bigger than any living bovid species. Thick-based and spreading up to 2 meters wide, these massive horns are sported by both males and females and can be used in fighting, self-defense, and most frequently, in creating mud holes in the ground. Their self-made mud holes allow water buffaloes to engage in one of their favorite behaviors, wallowing. By rolling about in the sludge, Asian buffalo are able to coat themselves in a thick layer of mud, not only keeping them cool, but protecting their skin from the ravages of the sun and jungle parasites. When parasites do set in, the buffalo have developed a symbiotic relationship with several species of jungle bird. Allowing their winged friends free rein, the birds are granted an easy meal, while the buffalo is relieved of the ticks and mites that cling to their coats. Domesticated and selectively bred over thousands of years, the water buffalo is today the most depended upon domestic animal in the world, providing labour as well as meat and milk. But it is their domestication and the ever-expanding imprint of agriculture in the jungle regions that threatens to wipe out the true wild buffalo. Although closely related, wild buffalo are a separate species to the domestic variety, and genetically pure lines are rapidly diminishing and increasingly fragmented throughout the jungle. It is believed there are still sufficient numbers to support genetic diversity into the future, but preserving enough jungle habitat and keeping hybrid varieties from contaminating the pure lines are significant challenges that remain for this endangered species. From the trees to the undergrowth and into the waters, the pythons of the Asian jungle are masters of their environment. Predominantly ambush hunters, pythons are patient predators. Well camouflaged in the jungles of Asia, pythons can take up position virtually anywhere as they wait for their prey to come to them. While all snakes are descended from a venomous ancestor, the python family has lost its ability to produce venom. Instead, pythons utilize their long, muscular bodies to wrap their victims in a constrictive embrace, opting for suffocation over poison. With 26 distinctive python species spread across Asia, Africa and Australia, the year-round warm temperatures of the Asian jungle provide the optimum climate for pythons, allowing them to efficiently draw heat from their surroundings. As a result, these jungles are not only home to a dramatically varied range of snakes, but also the biggest. While several Asian species are capable of overpowering an adult deer, this environment is home to the longest snake on the planet, a 6.5 meter long reticulated python. Across all species of python, jungle rodents comprise a great part of their diet. And upon a successful strike, the quarry is immobilized by the snake's backward curving teeth, while their powerful body coils around to make the kill. Swallowing their meals whole, the python's free-floating jaw allows it to slowly work its mouth around the victim's body, slathering it in saliva and assist its passage into the stomach, where it will be digested over the course of days or even weeks. Excellent climbers and deadly amongst the undergrowth, pythons are also superb swimmers. With much of the Asian jungle crossed by rivers and wetlands, these snakes are granted free rein over their habitat, accounting for their wide distribution throughout the jungle. As egg-laying snakes, the female python will incubate her clutch to maintain the embryos at a constant temperature, vigilantly guarding the unhatched young from the other predators of the jungle. She will not eat until they hatch. The warm and humid jungle climes assist the mother in the incubation, but it is her monitoring of the egg's temperature and the adjustment of her body to keep them within the optimum range. Left to fend for themselves, these young snakes not only face the natural threats of the jungle, but man-made hazards as well. Particularly vulnerable to forest fires, the deliberate slash and burn practices of palm oil plantations are, every year, killing increasing numbers of pythons, along with other wildlife. Until these practices are stamped out, the future of these snakes and the environment they have so successfully adapted to remains at risk. With unrivaled biological diversity, the jungles of Asia are home to some of the planet's most varied and fascinating species. We have seen just a few: the stately Asian elephant, voracious fruit bats, ingenious Porsche spiders, iconic water buffalo, and constricting pythons. As the most populated continent continues to expand, the jungles of Asia are among the most rapidly disappearing habitats on Earth. With deforestation threatening to wipe them out, agriculture and palm oil plantations demand vast areas of land, and logging operations, both legal and illegal, continue to ravage the jungles as well as the wildlife that depends on them. From the unsustainable profits of industry to continued benefits of conservation, the jungles of Asia are to be saved.
Immense hooked bills tearing through flesh. Rabbits are a firm favorite of these most magnificent of birds. These graceful formation flying birds that soar on thermals high above the ground are some of the largest and most engaging of all the water birds. Pelican species range in color from the aptly named brown pelican of the Americas through the shades of mottled gray to the distinctive black and white plumage of the Australian pelican. Widespread over freshwater, estuarine, and marine wetlands and waterways, Australian pelicans are large social creatures, distinctive bills and rotund bodies setting them aside from other water birds. Making their movement rather heavy on land, their webbed feet make pelicans superb swimmers, perfectly adapted for their aquatic lifestyle. Yet when these huge birds take themselves to the skies in great flocks, they become powerful and elegant flyers. Australian pelicans can stand between 1 and 2 meters tall with yellow ringed eyes that stare out of white feathered faces. Yet it is their pink bill that is truly remarkable. The longest bill of any living bird, the bill of the Australian pelican with its hooked tip can reach 47 centimeters in length. Huge distendable pouches on the lower mandibles act like a net and scoop up vast quantities of fish. Newly hatched naked chicks feed on regurgitated food. They will get their feathers at around 8 weeks of age and will attempt their first flight at about 3 months. By the time this chick is fully grown, it will eat just under 10 kilograms of fish every day. Pelicans are gregarious animals, living in large colonies and sharing their habitat with many other birds that take advantage of the water's edge and everything that it has to offer. When it comes to wing size, the pelican dwarfs its fellow water birds, having a wingspan that rivals that of the wedge-tailed eagle. On the other side of the world, the brown pelican of the Americas, the smallest of the pelican family, takes advantage of the rising warm air, soaring on thermals as they travel over the oceans. Unlike other pelicans, the brown pelican is an expert diver, plunging gannet-like to retrieve deep swimming fish, master of both water and air. Of the 8,500 species of birds in the world, just under 300 of them are seabirds, ranging from those that are migratory and dispersive to those that are rarely seen away from their breeding colonies. the long-winged birds that live a life of sea and air are truly free. A member of the gregarious gannet family, the masked booby breeds on islands in tropical oceans. Nesting close to clear, deep water, these incredible divers can fish 12 meters below the surface, chasing after fish and squid on which they and their chicks depend. Masked boobies, in most cases, lay 2 eggs with several days in between each. The elder chick ejects the younger from the nest, increasing its own chances of survival as it depends on the expert foraging skills of its parents for its first few months of life. Unlike the masked booby, the sooty tern is one of the elite bird species that can hover. To do so, they need to be facing into the wind, which then flows over the airfoil of their wings, giving them enough lift to hover for a few precious seconds. Breeding is one of the few times these migratory birds come to land for any real length of time. In jerky courtship displays, mates circle around each other with slightly dropped wings, calling softly with their bills pointing downwards. Noisy birds. A breeding colony is seldom, if ever, quiet, as the incessant high-pitched calls sound out. The reason for the sooty tern's other name, the wide awake. These impressive birds can stay at sea for phenomenally long periods of time. From fledgling until they first come back to nest, 4 or 5 years later, they will seldom touch land. To help them do this, they have an incredible ability to take 1 or 2 second micronaps while flying. While at sea, they feed on the and other underwater predators. These amazing terns really are true birds of the sea. Guardian of the forest, keeper of wisdom, and soul behind all-seeing eyes, barn owls evoke an eerie respect from all those who encounter them. Nocturnal hunters, these mystical birds have taken stealth hunting to a degree beyond all others. Flying between trees on dark nights, the owl's success is its silence. Hunting in darkness, it relies on superb hearing to locate the small ground mammals it seeks. Its approach must be completely without sound. Huge wings give highly controlled flight, as its heart-shaped face directs the tiny noises given off by potential prey to its inner ear. Soft, fringed feathers on long, wide wings reduce the loud turbulence of flight, while their velvety surface reduces any friction noise between feathers. With silent precision, the barn owl hunts in the darkest of forest nights. Constantly scanning the open plains of Africa are the highly tuned eyes of the famous birds that clean up these savannas. Vultures in full flight present an elegant sight, soaring on powerful wings, eyes trained on the land below, some flocking together, others taking a more solitary path. Famed carrion eaters, vultures spend hours aloft on thermals. Exploiting columns of warm air that rise up over 1,500 meters, vultures have been known to travel 75 kilometers using a mere half dozen of these thermals. Healthy living animals need not fear the vulture. These powerful birds are carrion specialists, with different vultures having different roles and specializations. Lappet-faced vultures tend to be more solitary birds than the smaller white-backed vultures that tend to flock. In the vulture world, many eyes make light work, as feeding groups attract the attention of others from several kilometers away, who quickly join the feeding site. It can take just moments before a carcass is covered in a feathered frenzy. There are others that keep a watchful eye on proceedings. Smaller white-backed vultures, the most common of the African vultures, cannot rip through hide, but specialize on the soft muscle, organ tissue, and bone fragments of the feast, while powerful lappet-faced vultures tear through the knotty muscle and hide of mammals. Even more animals are drawn to join in. Although hunting much more of their food than they scavenge, the hyena is an expert opportunist and will be unlikely to overlook a beckoning meal. With massively powerful jaws, the hyena's ability to tear through meat, hide, and bone surpasses that of even the largest of these aerial carnivores. Vultures tend to give way to mammalian competition. Among themselves, occasional conflicts over hierarchy break out. As hippo, elephant, and rhino die, wildebeest and zebra drown during their annual migrations, and nature takes its toll on the large mammals of the plain. Its scavengers, both of land and air, ensure that nothing goes to waste. Over the open landscapes of Australia flies its smallest falcon, the long-tailed, long-winged, inquisitive Longtailed Kestrel. Not much over 30 centimeters long and weighing under 300 grams, this delicate kestrel is a master of making itself at home, breeding on cliffs, on the ledges of buildings, and in the hollows of trees. Is due in part to its ability to tolerate and thrive in a range of habitats and on a range of foods. Unlike other falcons, the kestrel does not rely on the incredible speeds reached by its peregrine cousin. This little falcon uses another hunting method. It can hover. Rapid wing beats combined with a rudder-like fan tail keep its head and body still. Selecting its prey from its aerial vantage point, the kestrel drops nearer to the ground until it is close enough to pounce. Small mammals, crickets, spiders, and grasshoppers are all fair game. While some insects and smaller birds are plucked out mid-air, most of the kestrel's prey is firmly on the ground. Usually breeding every year, Nankeen kestrels often mate for life, their chicks ready to leave the nest at just a month old. At first, they will follow their parents, flying to them and taking food at a perch. After 2 more months, they are ready to fend for themselves and begin the life of a bird on the wing. The hovering kestrel, the magnificent pelican, and the soaring seabirds, darting budgies, and the resplendent owls on silent wings. Falcons that fly faster than the turn of a head, eagles that carry off young wallabies, vultures that clean the African plains. Which is the true master of the sky?
Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. A habitat found around the world, wetlands are the vital link between land and water. Swamps, mangroves, low-lying floodplains are all forms of wetland habitat. And whether the water is salt, fresh, or somewhere in between, they are considered the most biologically diverse ecosystems on the planet. In this episode, we flock with wetland birds, witness the distinctive life stages of frogs, learn the ancient adaptations of snapping turtles, stalk the waters with saltwater crocodiles, and peer into the social life of fiddler crabs. An indispensable component of the wetlands ecosystem, the vocal frog also provides this watery habitat with its characteristic soundscape. With nearly 5,000 species spread across every continent except Antarctica, these widely distributed amphibians are not limited to wetlands, but are at their most prolific within them, particularly in the tropics. Warty-skinned or not, there is actually no taxonomic difference between toads and frogs, and they all share the same life cycle. After breeding, frogs lay their eggs in a jelly-like substance in or near the water. Heavily predated upon by wetland snakes and wasps, the developing larvae can detect the vibrations of predators and hatch early to avoid being eaten. Typically in the space of just 24 hours, the tadpoles will metamorphosize into fully fledged frogs. Losing their gills and tail and sprouting 4 legs, they emerge on the surface at the end of the process, almost a different creature entirely. A largely carnivorous species, frogs target the abundant insect life of the wetland, firing their sticky, elongated tongues to snatch passing prey. Excellent swimmers, frogs are also adapted to the terrestrial aspect of the wetland, with most species being proficient climbers. And with their heavily muscled hind legs, frogs are, relative to size, the best jumpers of all vertebrates. Each frog call is unique to its species, and the primary purpose behind the croaking is to attract females. As such, it is generally only the males that croak, and many have developed vocal sacs under their throat to amplify the sound. With females drawn to intense low-frequency calls, some frogs can be heard over 1.5 kilometers away. Coming in a range of colors and shapes, frog eyes project outward from either side of the head, granting a visual field of almost 360 degrees, a distinct advantage in avoiding the wetland's many predators. A transparent third eyelid provides additional protection when swimming underwater. As amphibians, frogs are able to respire through their highly permeable skins. This adaptation allows them to breathe underwater, but also makes them susceptible to contamination from their environment. With pollutants carried in the waterways and the global spread of the deadly chytrid fungus, amphibians are the most endangered animals on the planet, and over 1/3 of frog species are facing extinction. Vital to the wetland ecosystem, if frogs are to be protected, the wetlands must remain pristine. Host to an ever-changing array of feathered residents and visitors in the wetlands, birds bring variety and beauty to an already teeming ecosystem. Beyond the influence of the seasons, the wetlands are shaped by the flow of water, and with tides, droughts and floods, this is an environment in a constant state of flux. Countless species of bird rely on this habitat for all or part of their lives, and in times of plenty, the wetlands are alive with birds in their hundreds of thousands. Multiple species share this aquatic landscape for weeks or months at a time. Periods of flood expand the resources and opportunities that the wetland affords. And during these times of abundance, year-round residents will live side by side with masses of seasonal visitors. Wading birds exhibit a range of adaptations specialized to this habitat. With long necks, long legs, and pointed beaks, they stalk the shallows to peck out fish and small invertebrates from the water. With short legs and broad bills, waterfowl float on the surface, using their web feet to paddle, and then submerge, feeding bottom up on the aquatic plants growing underwater. The large congregations that the wetland floods draw are not always a harmonious experience, and squabbles are a frequent occurrence as the pecking order is established. In the still waters of more tropical wetlands, water lilies thrive, and species such as long-toed lily trotters use these as a hunting surface over waters that would otherwise be beyond their reach. For a great many species, wetlands present the ideal nesting and nursing area. Sheltered and with a plentiful food supply, a variety of birds take advantage of the wetland to establish nesting sites, hatch their young, and teach hatchlings the skills they need to survive in the wild. For the migratory species, they will eventually take to the wing once more, venturing from the relative security of the wetlands to the wider world beyond. These mass exoduses are among the most spectacular sights in the natural world. Such sights may become increasingly rare as climate change alters the flooding patterns of the wetlands, reducing the amount of bird life they can support. Careful management of the waterways that feed these systems is required to ensure that the waters continue to reach the wetlands and the abundance of bird life continues to flourish. In the wetlands of North America, one ancient species continues its tenure into the modern era, the snapping turtle. Ranging from the subtropical water systems of the eastern United States to the cooler climes of southeastern Canada, the prehistoric snapping turtle remains perfectly designed for life in the wetlands. Floating near motionless, they lure curious frogs or fish into their open mouths with a worm-like appendage anchored to their tongue. Before snapping their jaws shut on the hapless victim. Flexible and extendable necks grant them a wide strike range when prey isn't quite as close. Omnivorous animals, snapping turtles play an important role in the ecology of the wetland. Tending to hunt in the cooler months of the year, they will feed on anything they can swallow, including small mammals, birds, even other reptiles and carrion. While bears and alligators offer potential threats, adult snapping turtles know few predators in the wild. The lifespan of this creature is poorly understood, but they are estimated to live up to 100 years in favorable conditions. Juvenile turtles are more vulnerable to wetland predators, such as waterbirds and snakes. With a preference for muddy, brackish water, when threatened, snapping turtles will swim for the bottom in order to bury themselves in the sediment. Most at home in the water, snapping turtles can travel extensively over land in search of new habitat or to find suitable nesting sites. Digging into sandy soil, females will lay their eggs beneath the surface, guiding each into place with her hind legs before covering the clutch and leaving them to fend for themselves. The ancestor of around 80% of today's total species, this prehistoric reptile is now threatened by deliberate hunting activities and habitat destruction. A long-lived animal with slow reproduction rates, it will require a sustained effort to ensure this ancient creature from our past continues into our future. In the world of the wild, every thriving habitat has its predators, and for the wetlands, the top spot is occupied by the saltwater crocodile. With a huge range from the east coast of India to northern Australia, this cold-blooded carnivore rules the mangroves, swamps, lagoons, and connecting waterways of its wetland habitat. The largest terrestrial predator in the world can grow to over 6 meters in length and weigh well over a ton. Their streamlined, muscular bodies are protected by a coat of thick skin embedded with bony plates. Short limbs end in clawed, webbed feet to aid in swimming, and broad snouts packed with sharp, peg-like teeth deliver the most powerful bite in the animal kingdom. Silently patrolling their territory, they appear much like a piece of floating debris so as not to raise alarm. When prey is known to be in the area, they expel the air from their lungs and sink to the bottom, where they can wait in the perfect attack position for hours without so much as a bubble to hint at their presence. Throughout its tropical and subtropical range, the wet season plays a significant role in this species' distribution. Fiercely territorial, male saltwater crocodiles fight to occupy the prime stretches of the waterways, with dominant crocs pushing juvenile males into more marginal areas. During periods of increased rainfall, sections of wetland that are normally cut off become connected, and these younger reptiles can find themselves in surprisingly confined habitats, where they may have to remain until the rains return. Mating occurs during the wet season, with females laying their eggs in a nest along the wetland shore. Guarded by both parents, the eggs will hatch around 80 days later, and the baby crocodiles emerge, their sex determined by the temperature in the nest. Despite the high level of maternal care shown by female crocodiles, the vulnerable young are heavily predated upon by the other inhabitants of the wetland, and only around 1% will survive to reach adulthood. Long extinct in China and more recently through much of Southeast Asia, Australia remains a stronghold for the saltwater crocodile. But this was not always the case. Targeted for their commercially valuable skins, extensive hunting during the 20th century decimated the species, with numbers in North Australia reduced by 95%. Today, legal protections have seen the population recover, and as long as the wetlands can support them, crocodiles will continue to thrive here. Tides play a crucial role in the wetlands, providing an ever-shifting boundary between the water and the land. Within these ebbing and flowing boundaries, one charismatic species has carved out its niche, the fiddler crab. With around 100 species dispersed throughout the tropical wetlands of the world, this small, semi-terrestrial marine crab makes its home where few other creatures can, in the intertidal zone. This dynamic area of the wetland can be completely submerged for days before the waters recede to expose the mudflat as dry land. Living in burrows beneath the surface, when the tide is out, the crabs emerge en masse to make the most of their time above the waterline. Feeding, fighting and breeding in the viable window of opportunity before the tide comes in once more. Fiddler crabs are so named for the unique single enlarged claw sported by the males, giving them a lopsided appearance. This brightly colored appendage can be up to half of the male's body mass. When feeding and cleaning themselves with their more functional smaller claw, male fiddler crabs are thought to take on the motions of a violinist or fiddler at play. While males frequently fight with their greater claw, its primary purpose is to attract females. Waving in a come-hither motion, male fiddlers dedicate much of their time on the wetland surface to courting potential mates. In the small world of the fiddler crab, size matters, and males with larger claws attract more females to visit their burrows, where the female may choose to mate and move in. A source of prey for many wetland creatures, particularly birds, these tiny, skittish crabs will dart for the cover of their burrows at the first hint of danger. For those that are injured in an attack, they have the ability to regenerate lost limbs. Even the male's enlarged claw can be completely regrown. Feeding on the algae and other detritus that the tides deposit on the mudflat, fiddler crabs play a vital role in the wetland ecosystem, sifting through the mud and releasing oxygen bound in its decaying matter. For those species that have their burrows in the higher reaches of the mudflat, their home is covered by the tide less often, granting them more time on the surface, but with less replenishment of their food source. Moving in droves of thousands to the water's edge, they will search for sufficient concentrations of food before returning to their burrows. For a species so in tune with the tides of the wetland, rising sea levels are a major concern. With areas that were once intertidal becoming permanently submerged, populations of fiddler crabs are moving higher into the wetland, inhabiting less familiar and less suitable terrain. Specialized to life in such a niche habitat, fiddler crabs are perhaps the most vulnerable species to environmental change within the wetland. Wetlands support high concentrations of diverse animal species. In this episode, we have seen a snapshot of the varied wildlife present here, with frogs, wetland birds, snapping turtles, saltwater crocodiles, and fiddler crabs. But wetlands are also an environment in peril, viewed as being more valuable for their water and undeveloped land than the ecological service they provide. As the importance of these natural services is increasingly recognized, there is optimism that the wetlands will be protected in a manner reflective of their true value. Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. Deserts. While hostile to life, they are far from lifeless. Rather, for the animals that live here, deserts represent life on the edge. Receiving less than 250 millimeters of rainfall every year, these barren expanses cover a third of the planet's land surface area. Found on every continent, they offer surprising diversity in their characteristics and the wildlife that survives within them. In this episode, we venture into these badlands to stalk the sands with scorpions, study the defense mechanism of rattlesnakes, endure the extremes with camels, examine the adaptations of lizards, and roll the dunes with golden wheel spiders. With its ancestors predating the dinosaurs, the resilient scorpion has been on the planet for over 400 million years and is nothing if not a survivor. With nearly 2,000 varieties of scorpions spread across all the continents except Antarctica, the majority of scorpion species are desert dwellers
and they exhibit a range of adaptations to occupy this parched landscape. Nocturnal animals, scorpions are rarely encountered on the surface during the day. Instead, they seek shelter from the heat, using their enlarged claws to burrow beneath the desert sands, where they wait for the cool of the night. The lower temperatures of the desert night accommodate the scorpion's active hunting style. While capable of taking down lizards and small rodents, the majority of the desert scorpion's diet is comprised of insects. Gripping their prey between their pincers, scorpions will attempt to make the kill with brute force. While preferring to reserve their sting for self-defense, it will quickly be deployed to subdue a more troublesome quarry. Coated in sensitive brown hairs for the detection of prey through ground and air vibrations, the scorpion's tail ends in their distinctive bulbous sting, packed with neurotoxic venom. Utilizing a set of sharp claws to draw food into a pre-oral cavity below their mouths, scorpions dissolve their prey into liquid form for ingestion, serving their need for both food and water in their thirsty desert surrounds. Hatching their eggs internally, female scorpions give birth to live young. Brood sizes range from 2 to 100, the exact number determined by a range of environmental factors that remain unknown to science. Carried on their mother's back, the young will remain dependent on her until the first shedding of their skin. For all the scorpion's adaptations to their desert home, the ravages of this extreme environment take their toll on even the toughest occupants. Prolonged exposure to above-ground temperatures over 45 degrees Celsius is fatal to scorpions. And in the unforgiving desert, they can quickly be consumed by species they would otherwise prey on or avoid. For the scorpions that manage to survive in the harsh world of the desert, it is precisely these hardships that protect their future. While scorpion species around the world face the threats of habitat loss and the widespread usage of pesticides, desert species are largely shielded from the presence of man and the dangers that he brings, allowing these armored warriors to continue as they have for countless millennia. In the deserts of North and South America, one species creates a sound that strikes fear into all those that hear it: the rattlesnake. There are around 30 species of rattlesnakes found across a range of habitat, with a strong preference for the sands and rocky hills of America's desert regions. Ranging in size from 30 centimeters to nearly 2.5 meters, rattlesnakes display significant diversity, but all share one remarkable adaptation to their environment. Used as a warning to deter the other predators of the desert, The rattlesnake's rattle is composed of a series of hollow, amplifying tail segments. With the contraction of super-fast shaker muscles, these segments vibrate against one another to produce the distinctively threatening noise. The tough, scaly hide of rattlesnakes affords protection not only against the birds and coyotes that prey on them in the desert, but also from dehydration, with the overlapping scales preventing moisture loss through their skin. Elliptical, cat-like pupils provide enhanced vision in dim light, a useful advantage when hunting in the desert's more agreeable nighttime temperatures. While the rattle serves as an intimidating display when threatened, in their day-to-day lives, rattlesnakes prefer to maintain a low profile, and the unique skin patterns of each species can blend near seamlessly with their favored environment, allowing them to bask and travel without drawing unwanted attention. Lacking outer ears, rattlesnakes rely on vibrations to detect sound. As such, they are effectively deaf to the sound of their own rattle, meaning that this sophisticated warning system is designed specifically for use against other species. Although able to hunt during the day, in the desert rattlesnakes are more active during the night and rely heavily on their keen sense of smell to seek out quarry. Using their nostrils and their flickering tongue to detect chemical signatures in the air, the snake will take up a strategic position and wait for prey to venture into its range. A quick strike and an equally fast-acting venom dispatches the victim before it is swallowed head first. One of the youngest and most recently evolved species of snake, rattlesnakes today appear to be undergoing another evolution. With their traditional range encroached upon by the spread of humanity, certain species are now listed as endangered in many US states. This selective pressure from humans appears to have resulted in the phenomenon of rattlesnakes that do not rattle. With non-rattling snakes avoiding detection, they are surviving to produce non-rattling offspring, offering these quiet varieties the chance to remain, for now, in their increasingly populated habitat. Perhaps the most iconic animal of the desert, there is a good reason for the camel's success in this inhospitable environment. The camel's history is inextricably connected with the vast waterless expanse of the desert and with mankind. The strong, durable nature of the camel in this tough environment has long been recognized by man, and the species was domesticated in the Middle East around the dawn of civilization. Divided into one-humped and two-humped varieties, today the Bactrian camels of Asia's Gobi Desert are considered the only true wild camels that remain genetically pure. With Bactrian numbers estimated to be as low as 600, it is their hybridized ancestors that are more common and widespread. So perfectly attuned to desert life, They are able to thrive in any arid environment, and thanks to man, have spread to desert systems around the world. Treading easily over tough terrain, the camel's broad padded feet have a snowshoe effect, preventing sinking in soft sand. Long legs keep their body high above the reflected heat of the ground, which can be over 70 degrees Celsius. Enlarged eyelashes and a transparent third eyelid keep sand from getting into their eyes. And thick lips allow the camel to feed on prickly desert plants. Traveling in herds led by a dominant male, camels are famed for their resilience to the incredible hardships of the desert. Able to go for more than a week without water and months without food, their feats of endurance are thanks to their most distinctive adaptation, their hump. Rather than directly storing water, the hump is a store of fat, and the reason behind its unique shape is to minimize heat retention. Were the camel's fat to be evenly distributed around its body, the insulating effect would be fatal in the desert heat. The exposed environment of the desert is prone to some of the most extreme temperature fluctuations on the planet. Scorching during the day when the sun sets, the desert cools rapidly and can drop below freezing overnight. Known as the ships of the desert, camels are among the most superbly adapted creatures to these testing environments. But while hybrid camels thrive in deserts around the world, their common ancestor, the Bactrian camel, is classed as critically endangered. As long as there are deserts, there will be camels. But greater awareness and protection is required to preserve their fragile ancestry. Hot environments present a niche habitat for the cold-blooded, and the world over deserts are the domain of lizards. Among the over 6,000 species of lizard, the Australian thorny devil is a true individual. Coated in a dense array of intimidating spikes, this small, non-aggressive reptile dissuades predators by virtue of being difficult to swallow. Its peculiar jerky gait is also believed to confuse the visual system of any predator that spots them in the open. More than self-defense, the thorny lizard's distinctive coat offers a resourceful adaptation to the arid desert. Its rigid spikes collect moisture in the form of dew, which is channeled via a series of tiny grooves running between the scales to the corners of their mouth, allowing this one-of-a-kind lizard to effectively drink from the air. Found predominantly in North America, horned lizards have been subsisting in the deserts since prehistoric times. Beyond their specializations for life in these arid zones, horned lizards display a range of adaptations to prey on a specific food source that has also endured since the age of dinosaurs. Harvester ants are an abundant insect species in the deserts of the New World. Although easy to catch, they provide little nutritional value and carry the most toxic venom of the insect world. For these reasons, they know only one predator in the wild, the horned lizard. Feeding almost exclusively on these nutritionally poor ants, horned lizards have developed a stomach proportionately 65% bigger than any other lizard species in order to process the sheer volume of ants required to sustain them. And having evolved a unique blood factor, this determined lizard is completely immune to the ant bites that would be fatal to other species. These adaptations afford the horned lizard a sedentary lifestyle with an abundant food supply, free from competition. Rare luxuries in the desert. As in the case for so much of the planet's wildlife, global warming is a looming menace for lizards. For all their adaptations to life in the hot deserts, lizards are not immune to the temperatures here and must limit their periods of activity in the heat of the day. Even a modest rise in temperatures can result in lizards losing a significant portion of the day when they can feed. These effects are already being felt, and researchers predict that if greenhouse gas emissions continue, 20% of the world's lizard species will be extinct by the year 2080. There is time for the world to act, but the window of opportunity to reverse this trend is rapidly closing. In South Africa's Namib Desert, one creature has developed a unique adaptation that aids not only in self-defense, but also in transport. A coastal desert characterized by steep sand dunes, some of which are 300 meters high, the Namib Desert is home to the golden wheel spider. Tucking its body into a tight ball, the golden wheel spider is famous for its habit of wheeling itself down the sand dunes of its desert home. This remarkable behavior is unique to this species and employed as a defense mechanism when the spider feels threatened. By utilizing the sharp drop of the soft desert dunes, it can tumble over 40 turns per second, enabling it to make a speedy escape from danger. A highly efficient mode of travel beyond self-defense, the golden wheel spider has been known to employ the tumbling technique when the sands are too hot to walk upon. Careening down the dunes at speeds of 1 meter per second, this acrobatic arachnid covers good ground with little time and even less energy expenditure. While the spider's golden coloration affords effective camouflage against the warm sands of its habitat, when on the surface during the day, it remains susceptible to predators, as well as heat exhaustion. To counteract this, the golden wheel spider goes underground. Just 20 millimeters in size, this tiny spider is an efficient excavator and can shift up to 80,000 times its body weight in sand as it digs its burrow. Although it may not spin a web, The golden wheel spider will line its burrow with silk, maintaining its shape against the crumbling sands. The burrows are dug deep in defense against the spider's most common predator, the pompelid wasp. With shallow diggings insufficient to avoid attack from this persistent aerial hunter, the spiders must dig half a meter down to ensure their safety. Carefully topping the entrance from below with a thin layer of sand, when the spider finishes its work, the burrow is completely imperceptible from the surface. Safely ensconced, the golden-wheeled spider waits for the cool of the night before again venturing out into the demanding world of the desert. Hostile to man, deserts are in many ways self-protected wildernesses where only the most hardy can survive. In this episode, we have seen stinging scorpions, boisterous rattlesnakes, durable camels, expertly adapted lizards, and tumbling golden wheel spiders. Unlike most wilderness areas around the world, in the face of global warming, deserts are expanding, with many bordering regions and dryland ecosystems becoming increasingly arid. While desertification is a great challenge to humanity, for existing deserts, rising temperatures can push life beyond its limits. More efficient water usage can help contain the spread of deserts, while curbing greenhouse gas emissions will slow the effects of global warming and keep the creatures that have evolved to live on the edge from going over it.
Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. Connecting every environment on Earth, few animals other than birds have evolved to inhabit the endless skies of our planet. And it is flight that stands alone as one of the most inspired and inspiring adaptations possessed by any living creature. While not bound to the Earth, birds of flight are nonetheless connected to it, and their behaviors and adaptations for life on the wing are shaped in no small measure by the environments they favor on the ground. In this episode, we take to the skies to follow the life cycle of pelicans, hunt from the heavens with wedge-tailed eagles, stalk the night with barn owls, learn why vultures deserve more appreciation, and witness the aerial artistry of hummingbirds. More closely associated with the water than the sky, pelicans are among the heaviest of the flying birds, making their aerial feats all the more remarkable. With 8 species spread around the world,
Pelicans range from tropical to temperate climates and are found on every continent except Antarctica. On the wing, these solid, long-billed birds are capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers a day, but prefer to congregate around inland and coastal waters. With a network of air sacs beneath their skin and throughout their bones, the heavy pelican is made lighter in the air, and its body is protected from impact as it dives into the water to catch fish. These air sacs also grant the birds incredible buoyancy, enabling them to float high in the water as they paddle with their strong legs and webbed feet. Working cooperatively, pelicans encircle schools of fish, beating their wings atop the water to drive them to the shallows. Here, the pelicans utilize their expanding throat pouch to scoop their prey up, along with liters of water. Contrary to popular belief, pelicans do not store food in their pouch, instead tipping it back to drain while immediately swallowing the fish. Growing up to half a meter, pelicans have the longest bill of any bird, aiding in the efficiency of their specialized feeding technique. For all their adaptations to the water, pelicans remain expertly designed for the air. Weighing up to 15 kilograms, rows of additional flight feathers help overcome their bulk by generating additional thrust and lift. Huge wingspans, reaching 3 meters in some species, make pelicans particularly adept at gliding. Exploiting thermal updrafts and prevailing winds, they regularly soar to heights of 3,000 meters, where they adopt an aerodynamic position, covering vast distances with maximum efficiency. Although able to commute hundreds of kilometers, pelican nesting sites are selected within close proximity to an abundant food source. Forming monogamous pairs for the season, males will gather nest-building materials and, depending on the species, simple nests are constructed in trees or on the ground. Incubation of the eggs is shared by the parents, and around a month later, the hatchlings emerge. Care for the young is also shared by the parents, who feed their offspring by taking the hatchling's head into their pouch and vigorously regurgitating their catch. Adversely affected by diminishing fish stocks, pelicans are particularly susceptible to entanglement in floating debris, often with fatal consequences. Nonetheless, they remain a versatile, wide-ranging bird, and the population of most species is stable around the world. Of all the birds of prey, the largest and most powerful are eagles. With 60 species around the world, in the southern hemisphere, it is the wedge-tailed eagle that rules the skies. Occupying a range of habitat throughout Papua New Guinea, Indonesia and Australia, the mighty wedge-tailed eagle presides over its territory from above, favoring lightly timbered regions in which prey can be more easily spotted. Highly aerial eagle hawks, as they are also known, regularly take cruising altitudes of over 1,800 meters. Soaring for hours without wing beat, they effortlessly overshadow the life below. By eagle standards, at around 5 kilograms, wedge-tails are lightly built, but their elongated proportions place them among the largest eagles in the world. Over 1 meter long and with a commanding wingspan of 2.8 meters, wedge-tails are perfectly designed airborne hunters. Sharp talons immobilize prey with a grip strength thought to be 10 times that of the human hand. A strong hooked beak is used in ripping flesh away from bone. And outsized eyes provide what is believed to be among the sharpest vision in the animal kingdom. The eagle hawk's choice of prey is based largely on convenience, and they have a wide diet featuring mammals, reptiles, even other birds of carrion. In Australia, the introduced rabbit is frequently on the wedge-tail's menu. Occasionally, prey can be alerted to the eagle's presence and take evasive action, trying its luck against the eagle's incredible maneuverability. Perching high in trees or other exposed lookout sites, the eagle rests from its hunt while keeping a constant vigil for the next opportunity. Adult wedge-tails pair for life, establishing a nest site that they will return to year after year and defend vigorously from intruders. Beyond the breeding area is a home range where they hunt for food. Extending to 100 square kilometers, the home range is not defended as actively as their nesting site, but ownership is displayed in the air through high-altitude gliding flights. While once the subject of bounties due to the belief that they targeted livestock, wedge-tailed eagles have in some ways benefited from human activity. Introduced species have provided greater feeding opportunities, and in some cases, deforestation has expanded their hunting areas. Nonetheless, habitat disturbance can greatly affect eagle breeding cycles, and care must be taken to ensure this awe-inspiring predator remains present in our skies. Designed for stealth, the barn owl's adaptations have proved successful in so many habitats that it is one of the most widespread bird species on the planet. Hunting under the cover of darkness, few predators, winged or otherwise, are as well equipped as the barn owl. Chief among its assets is a highly attuned sense of hearing, with even the faintest noise directed to their ears via their flat radar dish face. Known as famous ghost owls for their eerily slow, silent flight. Tiny serrations on their feathers, along with soft plumage, serve to break the flow of air over their wings and body, reducing disturbance as they move through the sky. Thus, the barn owl can listen as they fly, adjusting their path according to the movements of their prey, which remains unaware of the owl's soundless presence. Utilizing branches or other elevated positions to scan their surroundings, barn owls favor ground-based prey, with rodents a particular favorite. Rustling through ground cover or even moving beneath snowfall, little escapes this bird's auditory senses. Employing its long, broad wings for precise maneuverability, the owl descends upon its target, opening its slender, elongated talons to cover a wide surface area and seize hold of its quarry. Despite their adaptations to hunt by night, owls are rightly characterized as wise creatures and can modify behavior to suit their environment. As one of the most widely distributed of all bird species, barn owls are found on every continent except Antarctica, and in certain habitats have become more active during daylight hours in line with the habits of their prey. In darkness or in light, disproportionately large eyes grant exceptional vision. Frontally placed, the eyes are fixed in position, and barn owls have adapted to swivel their heads in order to take in their surroundings. Covering a range of around 270 degrees, they are able to see behind them without moving their torso, minimizing any sound that may hint at their presence. Favoring open country, these birds have benefited from agricultural expansion. Proportionally consuming more rodents than just about any other animal, nest sites are often encouraged within farmland as a means of natural pest control. While toxins such as rat poison are harmful to barn owl populations, the future of this surprisingly versatile bird appears assured around the world. Characterized as distasteful creatures, vultures have evolved to use the skies in order to perform a vital and thankless role in the ecosystems of the ground. A surprisingly diverse and widely distributed animal, there are 23 species of vulture spread across all the continents except Australia and Antarctica. Scanning the horizon from their perches, or soaring to incredible heights to cover vast territories, these scavengers of the sky employ incredible senses of sight and smell to detect dead animals from kilometers away. Rarely attacking healthy animals, vultures have adapted to feed almost exclusively on carrion. Unusually social members of the raptor family, vultures frequently roost and feed in large flocks. Their social nature is an asset when keeping watch for other, potentially dangerous scavengers on the ground. However, ground-based scavengers often provide unwitting assistance to vultures. With relatively weak legs and blunt talons, vultures patiently stand by as their so-called competitors break open the tougher carcasses. And with exceptionally corrosive stomach acid, vultures can afford to be patient. Safely digesting putrid meat, lethal to other animals, these unappreciated birds will wait to consume the leftovers, preventing the spread of disease from rotting corpses. Known as the undertakers of the bird world, vultures have evolved to use the skies to keep watch for sick or vulnerable animals. While feathers are vital to flight, and thus locating food, they can be a hindrance to a scavenger's diet. But with distinctive bald heads, vultures are able to feed without parasites and bacteria burrowing into their feathers and causing infection. Many species of vulture deliberately urinate down their legs in order to kill similar bacteria on their feet. Recent research has indicated that vultures' bare-skinned heads also plays a part in thermoregulation, with the birds opening their wings and stretching their necks to remove excess heat in hot climates, and hunching their bodies and tucking their heads to conserve heat in the cold. This ability to control body temperature is a significant factor in the wide distribution of vultures around the world. Despite their extremely resilient digestive systems, more than half of all vulture species are threatened by poisoning, with veterinary drugs used in livestock frequently transferred to vultures through feeding. Greater care is required to preserve these valuable birds and allow them to continue their unique role in maintaining the health of the ecosystems they inhabit. Taking the adaptation of flight to levels of artistry is the most acrobatic of bird species, the hummingbird. Among the smallest of birds, there are over 300 known species of hummingbird found across a range of habitats within the Americas. Flapping their wings at the incredible rate of around 50 beats per second, hummingbirds are so named for the audible hum their flight produces. Such a rapid blur of wing beats allows this artist of the air to achieve some truly remarkable feats. Able to fly in any direction, including backwards and upside down, there is nothing in the sky quite like the hummingbird. Hovering with an efficiency unmatched by the natural or man-made world, hummingbirds feed primarily on plant nectar. Assisting in pollination, this feeding behavior is mutually beneficial, and many hummingbirds have co-evolved with plant over millennia. The plants producing specifically shaped and colored flowers, and the birds' specialized beaks to access them. Speed is another asset of hummingbirds, and during courtship displays to attract females, males will dive from the sky, achieving the highest acceleration of any vertebrate in the world. Surprisingly, hummingbirds can also cover vast distances, traveling to areas of higher food abundance during the winter months, relative to body size, certain hummingbird species are considered to make the longest migration of any living bird. But the aerial mastery of the hummingbird comes at a cost. With the exception of insects, hummingbirds in flight have the highest metabolism of any animal. They must consume more than their body weight in nectar each day. Feeding is not without risk, and hummingbirds are vulnerable to predators as they visit hundreds of flowers to maintain their energy levels. But with the largest proportional brains in the bird kingdom, hummingbirds keep track of every flower they visit, calculating when the nectar supply will be replenished. Despite laying the smallest of all bird eggs, relative to body size, hummingbird eggs can be considered large. Frequently using spider silk to bind their nests, these constructions are able to expand as the chicks grow in size. With single females doing all the parenting and feeding duties, the period between hatching and leaving the nest is the most vulnerable in a hummingbird's life. Climate change is a significant factor in hummingbirds being listed as a vulnerable species. Increasingly sighted in locations well outside their normal range, researchers are concerned that the hummingbird's ability to forage is being adversely affected. The popularity of this remarkable bird may be its saving grace, with backyard enthusiasts providing artificial feeders, allowing some birds to refuel during hard times. The sky is all that lies above the Earth's surface, and no creature is better adapted to this ethereal other world than the last surviving dinosaurs, birds. In this episode, we have seen just a few of the nearly 10,000 birds of flight: ungainly pelicans, ruthless wedge-tailed eagles, stealthy barn owls, grim vultures, and high-speed hummingbirds. As bioindicators, birds reveal much about the state of our planet. And with increasing air pollution and habitat degradation, many species are in decline around the world, with over 1,000 projected to face extinction in the next century. Restricting harmful emissions into our atmosphere and preserving wilderness areas on the ground will not only benefit the birds, but the overall health of the planet.